Well, the drama surrounding the potential upcoming merger and completion of the purchase of Paramount of Warner Brothers continues to be a story. You guys remember that yesterday or 2 days ago, we talked about the fact that 12 states did bring a lawsuit to block it. Yesterday, we discussed the fact that they immediately filed an injunction to prevent the merger from happening until the lawsuit is finished, which could take well over a year, and some of the repercussions and drawbacks of that. Well, there's a few other things to talk about here. One of which is the fact that there is another lawsuit that just got filed to try to stop the Paramount Warner Brothers. And this one is being brought to us by the Writers Guild. The WGA, this comes just from Deadline, is now also suing to block the Paramount Warner Brothers Discovery merger. They say this over at Deadline. The Writers Guild of America has officially entered the ring in the fight to block Paramount Skydance's pending $110 billion acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery. The Guild's lawsuit, filed jointly by the WGA East and West in the Northern District of California on Tuesday, seeks to stop the merger on the grounds that it violates federal antitrust law and would cause specific harm to writers. The complaint lays out how the merger would reduce opportunities for writers as well as lead to lower pay and worse conditions. Now, the Ellisons and Paramount put out what I feel is a good response, but not perfect. It said this: reach for comment by Deadline on Tuesday. A spokesperson for Paramount Skydance said in a statement, "A stronger Hollywood only means something if it's stronger for the writers who power it." Remember, this is Paramount saying this. A combined Paramount Warner Brothers Discovery will have the scale and resources to reverse the current trends in our industry and expand opportunities for writers, not shrink them. More development slates, more series and film greenlights, and our continued strong commitment to working with the Guild's writers across the brands. So, in a rather refreshing kind of thing, instead of somebody getting sued coming out saying, "They're idiots," Paramount instead took the more diplomatic road and came out and said, listen, writers are awesome. And Hollywood only works if writers are getting their due. Absolutely, I think, a pitch perfect statement to put out. 100%. The problem is right now, guys, the Paramount legal doctrine that they seem to be purporting for both the state's lawsuit and now the WGA lawsuit. And I know some of you don't like to get caught up in the weeds, but the specific legal doctrine, as somebody who used to work in law, is called, in the Greek, trust me, bro. That's their whole kind of basis of it. It's trust me, bro. They say they're going to put out 30 theatrical films a year. They have not been able to demonstrate one thing that shows they're going to have the capacity to do that, but they keep pushing it. Trust me, bro. The WGA is saying this is going to lead to fewer opportunities, and with fewer employers, there's even more power now in the hands of the studio to screw over writers. We won't do that. Trust me, bro. Seems to be the whole thing. Now, in fairness, I don't know what else Paramount can. To be fair, I don't know what else they're supposed to say because they haven't had the opportunity to exhibit that they do have the will and the capacity to do all these things they're saying they're going to do. It doesn't look plausible, but they haven't been given a chance to do it. So there's that. But that's all now being compounded. The lawsuit from the states, the lawsuit from the WGA. There's also another thing that a lot of people have been overlooking. Now, look, this is a $110 billion deal, right? A big chunk of that was, this wasn't even allowed to go forward. Warner Brothers wouldn't consider it until Papa Ellison, Larry Ellison, head guy at Oracle, was willing to step up, because he wasn't at first, and say, I will personally underwrite this. I will personally guarantee, because Papa has a lot of money. He's got a lot of money. But even with Larry Ellison's money, this seems to be a staggering debt-heavy deal. And it gets worse when you look at this. Yahoo Finance is mentioning that Oracle is down like 28% in a month, which is where all the Ellison family jewels come from, is Oracle. As a matter of fact, in just under 2 months, Oracle has lost $360 billion in market cap. That's a lot of
4Ks, John.
That's a lot of 4K Blu-rays. In June, at one point in June, their stock price was at $244 a share, which equaled a rough $767 billion market cap value. Today, that price is at about $130 a share, which represents a 47% decline with a market cap of $405. Bottom line, in the last month and a half, getting close to 2 months, Oracle, the Ellison family business, has lost nearly $360 billion in their value. Now, couple things to keep in mind here. Stocks go up and down. Stocks go up and down. I remember a couple years ago, we were talking about, oh my God, Netflix has lost $7 billion in the last 3 months in market cap. But you know what? 6 months later, they had gotten all that back, right? They gotten all it back. I mean, sure. Stocks do go up and down. So I want to make sure when we're going to look at a graphic as shocking as that one, keep in mind, 5 weeks from now, maybe that arrow goes up. Maybe not. Maybe it does. Who's to say? The other thing you got to keep in mind here is that is not necessarily $360 billion right out of the pockets of Larry and David Ellison. They own about 44% of Oracle. And most of their value is not in cash. It's in the shares they own in Oracle. So this does represent a significant hit to their personal wealth and their personal value in the 3-digit billions kind of range. So why does that matter so much? Well, because at some point here, and I remember one of my business guys, his name's Scott, he did bring up a point like about 4 or 5 months ago when he said to me, there is a path here where it just starts costing them so much to do this deal. It may be cheaper for them to get out. Here's the thing. If Paramount pulls out, if Paramount pulls out, they, for whatever reason, doesn't matter if they just decide to get out of the deal, doesn't matter if the government or the lawsuits stop the deal, doesn't matter. If for whatever reason under the sun, Paramount has to get out of the deal, they have to pay WB, get this, a $7 billion breakup. If the deal is not closed, which we've talked about in the last few days, by September 30th, Paramount has to pay WB shareholders $650 million per quarter. We said that roughly worked out to $6-something million a day.
That's a lot of 4K discs, bro.
That's once again, that is a lot of 4K discs. Lot of 4K discs. So this is getting extremely hard. Now, again, we mentioned that yesterday. The states have now filed an injunction that I think the judge is going to rule on Friday to stop the merger until the lawsuit is done. The lawsuit will probably take well over a year, which equals 650 by 4 quarters. You're talking about what, $2.5 billion. And then if at some point they realize we got to get out, then they have to pay an additional $7 billion on top of it. Now, look, I am not sitting here telling you that the Ellisons are going to pull out of this deal. That is not what I'm telling you. What I am saying, though, is that when you combine the multiple lawsuits, the potential impending injunction, the ticking clock, $6+ million a day in penalties, and a potential $7 billion pullout fee, it could be that at some point, and now the massive decline in Oracle's value, I am not saying that they're going to get out of the deal, but what I am saying is an environment is being cultivated where the Ellisons and Paramount just straight up pulling out of the deal may become more financially viable for them to do than staying in the deal. Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, I'm just saying the environment has been cultivated to the point that it's a legitimate possibility here. Anyway, Sean, I know you've been following this story as closely as anybody, the way this could have the potential, positively, negatively, whatever, to reshape the entertainment landscape. When you see the additional developments here, yet another lawsuit, the Oracle situation, I don't know, what's striking you right now when you look at this whole situation?
Well, first off, just as you list all of that off, I'm getting anxious as someone with no skin in the game whatsoever. Just hearing all that, like, oh goodness, that is rough to hear all of that. That is so much money per day. But yeah, I mean, I think there's just so much working against this, of so much pushback, so many legal headaches, so many different things. It just, sometimes the idea that these companies would merge just feels like a weird fantasy to me. Like, until I see it in front of me, I can't believe that it's real. And then you list off all of the additional obstacles at the current moment, and it just affirms, like, man, is this really going to happen? Like, it seemed like it was, and it seemed like it was going to happen with Netflix. All these things seem like they're going to happen, and then they don't. And then there's just more and more obstacles that keep coming up every single day. And when you bring up $100 million or billion dollar losses, and I don't know, it just seems like such a stretch, despite the fact that it is there in front of us. There is something they're working towards, but yeah,
it's hard. Rob, look, they are clearly, I think they have demonstrated over the past year, they are very clearly committed over at Paramount Skydance to want to get Warner Brothers. I mean, they've jumped over a lot of hurdles. They've crossed a lot of bridges. They've shaken a lot of hands. They're very committed to this. But do you think, I mean, it could get to the point that the Ellisons will just have to sit back and say, you know what, we can look at ourselves in the mirror and say we gave it a great shot, but at this point, it's just mounting up too high? Or do you still foresee this going through without too much hassle? What do you think?
Well, I've got something else for you. Today, Larry Ellison and David Ellison are accused in a new lawsuit that was filed in the Delaware Chancellery by a shareholder. They are suing the Ellisons and other members of the Paramount Skydance Corporation board. This is today. This happened today, to block the $110 billion transaction. And the blockbuster deal appears to involve the promise of, get this, quote, illegal private benefits to President Trump in order to remove federal regulatory barriers, according to the court filing, which also requests money damages. These terms reportedly include the potential firing of CNN news anchors who have run afoul of the president, and the opportunity to improperly funnel cash to him by settling his legal claims against the network. The Ellisons' actions are not only harming the reputation of the news outlets they currently own, which are hemorrhaging viewers, but they are latent liabilities waiting to be triggered by a future administration, the suit says. So this suit is directly addressing what people have been worried about with this merger happening, in that the news organizations now are going to be controlled and used as political tools by the current administration. And this is brand new. Bloomberg reported this today. The filing was today. So I don't know how this is now going to affect. They're now in another lawsuit that they're going to have to deal with. And I think you just kind of nailed it. I mean, how many of these things are they going to have to fend off before they just throw in the towel? How much money are they going to lose? Is it really worth it? I mean, the funny thing about this is, where's the business of movie making and TV shows in all of this? Where is Paramount coming out with an aggressive slate of really interesting? I mean, they announced Paramount Primal, their new genre label, and they want to make a Nightmare on Elm Street series. I mean, that's not exactly groundbreaking. So I would love to see Paramount itself aggressively get into the entertainment business rather than mergers and acquisitions.
I guess that's another question that gets brought up in the finances is, now, so you got to fight the state's lawsuit. You got to fight the WGA's lawsuit. You got to fight these other impending shareholder lawsuits. How much is that going to cost them too, to do this? And again, at what point maybe David Ellison, like, look, say what you want about David Ellison. I think one thing almost everybody agrees on is he is a true dyed-in-the-wool, absolute movie fan. He
100%.
really is. And I just got to wonder if at some point, again, if you ask me, I still think 6 months from now, a year from now, this deal gets done. But if David Ellison, who it just truly does love the movies and just really does want to be in the business of making movies, I just wonder if at some point him and Papa Ellison are just going to go, look, well, again, we gave this a legit shot. Let's just forget about it. Let's walk away from the WB thing and let's get down to the business of making movies with Paramount. And maybe that happens. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about all this? For the Ellisons and Paramount's impending and wanted takeover of Warner Brothers, it seems like every day new obstacles are piling up, including obstacles of their own business values at this point. Do you think this deal goes through now still? Do you think it gets stopped? Or do you think at some point the Ellisons just go, you know what? This is starting to mount up to be too much. Maybe we just walk away. I mean, I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. Look, guys, we talk about mental health a lot around here and a lot more openly these days, but actually raising your hand and asking for help, it can still feel incredibly hard. I mean, we wouldn't hesitate to tell a friend it's good to talk to somebody, but society still makes us think twice when it's our turn. BetterHelp is working to bridge that gap. They are the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 6 million people globally with a network of over 30,000 fully licensed, high-quality therapists who work under a strict code of conduct. And the bottom line is that the data shows it works, holding an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. BetterHelp handles the initial matching work for you through a short questionnaire tailored to your needs and preferences. Plus, their industry-leading match fulfillment rate means they usually get it right the first time, but if you ever want to switch, you can do so at any time. Don't let stigma stand in the way of support. Start therapy with BetterHelp. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/Campea. That's betterhelp.com/Campea.